character level is 100. I got one 100 and then like a dozen, you know, like level 2, level 5, because like I get sick of doing the stuff over and over. The only time that doesn't apply is if it's a different faction, and then I can kind of get into seeing the other side of things, because often the quests are, you know, different enough where it's not as boring. But generally speaking, I'm not really an alt person. It wasn't until after I really started getting into the housing that I decided, okay, I'm going to break down and do some other alts because I want more land to work on. But in the beginning, it was just this plot, and I think I rebuilt it at least once a month. Oh, is that, are you talking about Melancholy? I can go there first if you want. I don't mind. Is it still private? I couldn't remember if I say it. Well, let's go to Melons then, I guess. I'm not even sure how to spell the name. I think I spelled it right. Again, it's been ages since I visited some of these places myself. So for you, Aurora, we'll go to Melon's house. This is the only Dominion character I have, and he's been severely neglected. So his plot's called Brass Roots. I think it was Bones and a couple of others that did some like steampunk stuff, and I thought I want some kind of steampunky thing, and I decided that that's what my Chua was going to be. It was a little steampunk thing, and I knew I wanted it to be a desert because I hadn't done a desert scene before, and I wanted his house to be pretty original. So his is a wire frame of a tree. That's why it's called Brass Roots. And his house is in the roots of the tree. You'll see that a little closer as we go. I think these are some of those meteor rocks or something, and I tried to get a hold of as many as I could, and eventually the event that they were tied to went away, and I ended up using a lot of those what's this, the taurine head lady things. But with the desert, you know, you're kind of limited to what type of plants you're thinking of. I went with a lot of plants that are like brown and cactuses and stuff. But I decided I would try to make my own cactus, and I ended up coming up with this. It's the green pillows and stuff. Again, it's one of those things that at a distance you can't really see it really well. It disappears. That's why I have it so close to the entrance, so that when you first pop into the plot, it's visible in its entirety and it's right there. If I had, you know, thought about it or bothered with it after I made it, you could do all sorts of different little formations of this, you know, squatty ones and ones with one arm and ones with the arms in different shapes or something. But this is what I come up with. But I figured if someone saw it, that they could probably run with it and add it to, because we've seen a lot of like old Western style towns and stuff. This would have worked good for that. Someone could have come up with maybe building some kind of a vulture that they could perch on it or something. I don't know. So it's just, again, it's one of those things where I had a build and I think, well, what am I missing from it? And I decided to throw this in. Same way with this little camp setup here. I tried to come up with different things that I thought might be at a camp. So I come up with my own version of a tent. And because it's punky, a steampunk thing, I stuck with a lot of metal items. So like the chair is metal, different metals for that, and metal for even the tent. Why? I don't know. I don't know. That's just the way I did it. I don't even know the practicalness that you would imagine. This is probably weighs a ton, but that was what I decided to run with, and stuck with a lot of the metal bits for it. I don't know. Again, I'm the world's worst at landscaping, so there's not really a whole lot here outside the house. I think there's a little camp area up above. Yeah, it's just a little tent. There's like not even anything in here. But it gives you another look at the tree shape. I think we can go up ledge here and you can kind of get a better shot of the house. So see, it's like the roots of the tree. But it's like a steampunk version. It's like maybe this structure and you could have smoke coming out the ends. I don't know. I just wanted like some kind of like a wire frame because I didn't want to be, you know, with the Oran kind of thing. It's a living tree, and it's they like blended in their homes and stuff are built into it, and it's like the tree nurtures the house. But this I wanted to be more like mechanical and intrusive, sort of, I guess. And so I wanted, you know, uh, uh, a mechanical take on the tree and not have it be a living thing. So it's like a bastardized tree, or however you want to describe it. I don't know. I had some weird ideas, guys, because it's like I know I want something this way, and it's that's what I come up with. It's like this weird little pump thing. I just wanted a bunch of tubes and metal pipes and but there's like no logic to how it's connected or what it's supposed to be. I pretended that it was for this weird little lagoon thing that's out back here, but really I just was playing around with putting a bunch, you know, I wanted it to be really like a Tua thing, you know, mechanical and gunky and oily and gross, and so that's what I come up with. And of course, I had to build some kind of a flying contraption, so I worked on making this weird metal flying ship thing. I have no idea. It's like, again, it's kind of like a wireframe skeleton deal going on. That you could just hop in and go for a ride. I did have it up here, I think, at one point, so that people could like get up on the little platform, but I just moved it down so it was easier. So yeah, it's supposed to be the roots coming out, you know, for an old dead tree kind of thing. And then, as you can see on most of my plots, I make my own little mailboxes. So it's true Chua style, all metal and wires and beepy things and stuff. We go inside, and it's I think it's the first time I changed the lighting to be a little weird. I don't know if it's the sepia thing or the noir or something, but I wanted it to be very drabby in the colors. I wanted, you know, the things that actually have color, I wanted it really toned down to make it more look more like metal throughout. So everything's kind of gray and brown and just that's the color I wanted. So here's the bedroom. Most of the walls and stuff I think is from some of that stuff from Arctera. Again, you had tons of bones that dropped, and then tons of the uh, metal bits. It was like brackets and walls and thrown pieces, tubes and stuff. And I just went nuts with packing that into the wall so make it all look, again, lots of metal and everything. Same way with the bed. I kept it kind of metally looking. And then the cushion. And then, of course, I wanted some kind of a steampunk painting, so I come up with these gears. Uh, just different ways of making the gears. They don't actually like click together like properly, but you know, you get the idea. I think that's a giant Osun chain link for the picture frame. Yeah, that was probably one of the reasons why I went with the metal stuff because again, Shu is kind of, you know, known for all the explosive devices and mechanical junk, and um, that's why I wanted to be starkly different from all of the other stuff I'd put together before, where there's a lot of, you know, grass and flowers and vines and stuff. It was all orangey like my Easter plot and stuff, and I wanted this to be very, very different. So here's that chair again, the same one that's out by the campsite. And then in the other room is the kitchen area. And you can see I never did finish that. It was in the process. I just never got to it. I was intending to make a little, I think I was thinking about putting in like a library and a deal up here. So I was playing around with ideas of how to do a staircase kind of deal. And you can see I was using those graded floor panels quite a bit in this particular build, trying to make the table and the little island and the sink and cabinet areas. So you can see my thought process sort of. I even figured out how to make a little cutaway for the sink and everything, but I just never completed it. Again, I was horribly bad about sticking to a project through and from start to finish. You know, for a full project like this, I would just tinker here and then I'd move off and tinker there. It kept me not, I don't want to say it like strumming too thin, but it kept my mind active without getting burnt out on a particular project. Because you know, there's always going to be those times where you know you want to put something together, but you just can't think of a new idea. And if you move off and do something else, it might trigger a thing. Because I think that's how I come up with this design here for the cabinet. I was doing something else somewhere else on a different plot, and I thought, huh, that would make a good little decal for the cabinetry in this particular plot. So I put it together here, but again, I just never finished this, which I know is disappointing, but you know, one of those things. That's probably why I never really finished showing this plot, was because I had it incomplete. Probably the worst or toughest things for me was to build this staircase. It's hats, if you can't tell. It's the judge's hat. It's probably the silliest thing to build a staircase with. And then, of course, I had to line it with those cables to make sure I didn't fall off every time I tried to walk on this silly thing. But I wanted a way of getting up to this upper area to this desk that I put together, which is a really weird thing. But again, I tried to stick with the steampunky metal galore kind of deal. So you've got these weird chairs, and then the desk itself kind of mirrors the shapes. So I got a lot of round and oval and things. Here I think it's supposed to be an old-fashioned radio. And on this side is a lamp. And then of course you've got the little typewriter thing going on. Who knows what was going through my brain on this stuff. And I think this was supposed to be kind of like a globe, but I never put in a base for it. I don't know why. I probably couldn't figure out how I wanted to put it in. So yeah. And then of course, probably the favorite part for most people that knew about this particular plot is the workstation. Um, Again, it started with me just trying to come up with a place where your little Chua would like plan out his creations, and it just turned into this weird, massive little collection of tools. And so I had fun trying to figure out different ways of making the wrenches and the measuring thing, and the scissors and the pliers and the screwdrivers and the saw thing, and it just became a big, and I love how it turned out. I'm sure others that would try to do something similar would come up with alternative ways to make these particular items, but I really like how they came together for me, including the cabinets, having the open bits so that got all these different books and plans and things. You can see I even tried to make my own little containers of parts, and some weird little press machine. I have no idea what that's supposed to be, honestly. And of course I needed a place for my coconut monkey, so he seemed to fit in right here. Here's a little clock put together. Again, trying to my best to stick with the steampunky stuff. But yeah, that's probably my favorite part, the tools. So that's Melon's place. Again, it's not complete, and it never will be, unfortunately, but now you understand the idea behind it, and you know, if I had worked to add more things, I probably would have built some kind of a mechanical car, like a wagon or something. I don't know. Whoops. Yeah, the workstation was like, I think that was the first part that I put together, and then I just built around that. The tree's probably my second favorite part, because I think mine is the only wire frame tree out there. So it's just a weird thing, and it was horrible to put together. I think what I did was I built it on a smaller scale. You know, I sized down, and then I just enlarged it to get it to be as big as I felt it needed to be. I think originally I tried to build it like to scale, and it didn't look right. And if I remember rightly as well, it's based partially on the dead tree. I think I used the dead tree and shaped the metal bits around it, and then twisted it, and then shaped more, and then twisted that, and that's how I got the 3 stems from it. If I remember right, it's been a while since I worked on this particular plot, so I could be wrong about that, but I think that's how it went. Okay, so now back to my main plot. As I was saying in the beginning, when I first started working on plots, I just used Carrot's plot, and so that meant if I wanted to build something new, I had to erase what was already there, and I did that for several months. I mean, I think I was changing it every month, because there used to be a putt-putt golf, my version. I actually have another plot that's got a putt-putt golf, but it's actually Katya's, that she gave me a copy of the build for that. It used to be Rapunzel's tower. I had that there at one point. Um, Gosh, I don't remember what all I had on this place, but eventually I made the Sky Plaza. And my original idea was that, again, I would change out the items periodically so that I could continually make new things without losing the general structure of the plot. So the idea is that this is a mall and it had different types of shops. And again, the plan had been that I would change out the products that were showcased in the shops and entertain myself in that way. It didn't work out that way. I didn't actually switch out very much. I think there were a few things that I switched out, but in the end, I just kind of left it and found other ways to branch out, especially once I started adding alts to my character list. I just ended up getting distracted with their plots and left it at that. So, but the idea was there, and I think someone that focused completely on just having a mall could easily follow through on that by changing out the products. So let's just go through the different shops. We have the lamp shop. So I've got different types of lamps. As you can see, you'll notice that I removed some of them. That was due to needing the building space for other things. I don't remember really what I changed up to require that, but there used to be some chandeliers up here and stuff, but I still got some of the basic little lamps, just different ideas. Again, it was just to give others inspiration into, because you know, a lot of our building blocks were themed to the races. You know, you have your orange stuff and you have your Chua stuff and you have your Granok stuff, but they weren't able to do that with everything. And a lot of builders would build a theme that had nothing to do with those particular races and needed something more specific to them or to their theme. And this was to show builders or remind them that if there wasn't a lamp that actually suited the theme or suited the colors or the shapes or whatever they were looking for, that if they just played around with the items we actually had, they could come up with a variety of different takes on the usual items. Instead of sticking with the actual table lamps and stuff that we had, they could create their own. That was kind of, you know, the idea behind this, to kind of give people room to kind of play around with different things. So this is like one of the furniture places. This is the seating shop. So I've got different benches and chairs. So again, played around with different ideas. So like this bench, I think ended up on the Easter plot. This one, I think, used to be in this particular plot. I think it's the not the bunker house, but the Protostar Winterfest house. I think I changed it out, or maybe it's the spook house, because I got like several different little instance areas here. It's the one plot that I actually did fab kits. So I've got the haunted house plot, I've got the bunker house, and then I've also got the Winterfest house. And in one of those, there used to be a skating rink for the winter holiday thing, and I think this was one of the benches from there. And then this is a take on the porch swing from that first house. That's where I got the idea for this couch here. And over here are some chairs. So you got the picket fence version of the chair that goes with the bench. This is that chair from the Stilts house. And then this is just another one using the shirts for the different cushions. Again, notice how the landscaping's pretty bland. It's a lot of oversized bits just trying to match. And it's one of the few times I actually changed the sky to match better with the particular setup I had here. I think this is the table store, so you got different tables. I think the end table is from the Stilts house. This is from the Easter plot. I don't know what that's from, and I'm not sure about that. And if we go over here, this is the appliance store. One of the things that's not here anymore, there used to be a vacuum. I think it started with the appliance custom-built decor challenge that we did. I ended up moving it out. But like this is the stove, the same one that's being used in the Stilts house. Toaster. There's that blender that we saw there. I got a fan. That was a pain to try and put together. A refrigerator, complete with shelves and everything, and then a coffee maker. So again, the idea was that I would switch it out and make different appliances, but again, I got kind of bored with it and just would add things or change it out every now and then. So this is like the seasonal store. So we've got something from, you know, Thanksgiving, something from Christmas, something from Halloween, Easter, and Valentine's. So again, I've got the Franken cake. I actually built it, I think it was the Spook House here that I changed out to a, it was supposed to be for like the guild where they could come and do a little party, I guess. And I built like a dance floor and had like a whole array of food, and the Franken cake was one of them. And so I showcased it here, and then I also put a copy at the bakery. That's how that ended up there. A little Fabergé egg, and then of course the heart. Oh, well, I appreciate that, Aurora. I didn't know that, but that's heartwarming to know that I helped inspire you to all of that. So I think this is the cabinet shop. I'm not sure. I know this is from a bed build that I did. It's probably upstairs, the bed, but this is like a nightstand, and it looks kind of weird but it fits with the actual bed set. I don't even remember where that is though. That's the cabinet from the Stilts house again, and then another cabinet with some like glass shelving. Again, a lot of this is just me dorking around with different ideas. We've got the information booth here with the little I for information. And this is one of the few plots that I actually have NPCs. I tend to not use them, or tended not to use them very often. Mostly because in the beginning I didn't really have very many. So I didn't want to just have like one and like nothing else to go with it. But as I started collecting more and more, I ended up putting them in here because I figured, this being the mall, this would be the best place for them. So we have, you know, all of some of the customers, and then some of the desk folks and stuff. This here, I actually had planned to put multiples around here, but again, I ran out of space. It's one of the reasons why I had to remove some of the furniture and everything. Because for a long while this wasn't finished, and I ended up finishing it by removing some other things. But yeah, with all of the items that are here, it ate up the decor count really, really fast, so I was kind of limited. But the idea was I was going to have like at least 3 or 4 of them scattered about. And then this space here was usually reserved for holiday related things, like when I did the advent calendar thing. That was a big pain in the butt too, because I think I want to say I built that here before the information office, but I'm not sure. But like one year I had like a little stage set up for some carolers. Um, and of course, for the Christmas thing, at one point, this was a giant Christmas tree here that would set under the dome. And this is the first dome I made. It's not exactly accurate. You can see how it's not always same shape. But it was like the first time I really played around with the Katya's Builder Toolkit add-on and making a shape for myself. And so yeah, it's probably the most memorable part of the building structure itself. You can see it really out here. Just that metal glass dome. Let's go out this way to the one shop before I go back inside. I'm not even sure if there's anything in here anymore. It used to be a weird toy thing, I think. I honestly don't remember though. I want to say at one point I cleared it out with the intention of rebuilding it into something else, and I might have gotten distracted. Again, that happens or happened a lot. So yeah, this is just pretty much wiped out. I wanted to double check though. I couldn't remember if I changed it up or not. Anyway, let me just go back to the front. Let's see. Guess it was up to the upstairs. Oops. I think the most difficult part of this particular plot was getting the building and the ground, the frozen ground, to work correctly together. Because silly me, I built the structure first, and then I put the landscaping in, and that was that's a big no-no, I think, because depending on how I tilted the ground, some of it would pop up inside here, and I'd like, no, and I'd have like snow mounds inside the building, so it took a lot of finagling to get that meshed correctly. So in retrospect, it would have been better to build the land first, obviously, and then put the structure on, but of course I do it the difficult way, and I built it the opposite. Now, can't forget the little menu guide for locating the different shops and stuff. Okay, so upstairs is the bed shop. This is that bed that goes with that other end table, that or nightstand. They would be like one on either side. Again, I was just playing around with different ways of making beds with different items. It's not like I had any particular house in mind when I put them together, but just seeing different styles. Like this one is from the Stilts house. This is the painting shop. It's where some of my paintings are. We'll see some more here in a bit. This is the seahorse. I actually made this for Katya. She had a seaside beach resort, I think, and she was looking for something water related, so I come up with this. It's really kind of creepy looking with the moving eye, but that was the best I could come up with. I think for all of the body, the bony parts, it's all one piece being used in different ways, different parts of it showing, different sizes, twisting it slightly different. And then I think this the really light pinky purple is a different item to kind of accent the shape of the seahorse. This one I think is just, I don't know if I built that specifically for an individual or if it was just something that I ended up giving to someone that they liked. I can't remember, because I know there was some instances where I actually gave out some of these paintings, copies of them, as gifts and or prizes. So it's hard for me to remember if it was just something I put together and then they liked it and I gave them a copy of it, or if I actually specifically built them for it. I think this was like I'm pretty sure that was a commission, but I'm not sure about this one. But it's just a path. The creepy thing about it is, obviously, if you watch, you can see how the parts of the path disappear, and that's because the item I'm using for the streaks here actually moves from time to time, so it's kind of creepy. And the same way with the trees, a lot of the trees kind of wiggle. I was trying to make it where it's kind of like faded in the background. That's why you see this cobwebby stuff. I was trying to like make it look like misty, but I don't think it quite worked as I was intending. But you know, it's a wooded path. That was my attempt, and you can see how I tried to box it in and keep the creepy stuff from sticking out, but it didn't quite work as well as I'd hoped. Ah well. This is probably one of my favorites, the sunset. I want to say it was one of among the first that I put together. Yes, the tree part kind of pops up off the top, but I just like how I figured out how to kind of make things a little like the lines and the shapes, and it's supposed to be kind of like almost a silhouette type of deal. I thought about putting like maybe a person here, but I didn't want to complicate it too much, so I just left it kind of. But what cracks me up is it's toilet paper for the sun. It's toilet paper rolls. I find that hilarious. I think I have a weird sense of humor, but yeah. And then trying to figure out how to make the mountains be reflected in the water without having it totally match. So I ended up doing like kind of like a sketchy version of it. But yeah, I think that's one of my favorite. I have a lot of favorites, but that's among the top 5 or so. This is the toy shop. So I got a little airplane. It's probably one of the few places I use that silly windmill thing. I got a little doll here. It's actually just the little effigy doll, and then I've just added a dress and some hair and a bow. Another place for that silly monkey thing. And then, of course, the toy shop has to have a little wagon. So I added the wagon. Over here is the plant place for some different kinds of plants. So this is another version of a bonsai tree, but then I added in some little structures. And then the Dr. Seuss tree. This is probably one of my first trees that I put together, and I did that for the putt-putt golf thing that I had. I loved these bushes, but I only had a limited amount. and ended up using them for the trees that lined the street that was out front of the putt-putt place. And then, of course, this lovely little topiary bush. This would be good for like a wedding setup or a fancy garden in a mansion type of setting. But it's multiples of those little green bush things and then multiples of those weeping cup flowers to make this bush. It's really not practical at all. It's probably like 15, 20 pieces for this one little ball of green. But, you know, that's what happens when you're customizing stuff. It's not always practical to do that. Like the paintings, those are definitely not practical because a lot of them were like several hundred pieces just to do. So this is the jewelry shop. This is where I was playing around with ideas of having necklaces and things. So I had a couple of odd and end items that I decided to turn into like, I don't know, brooches and necklaces and things. Just a few examples. Now it looks like it's just an Orin window, but I think it's actually a gold pile on top of something else to make that multicolored gem or whatever you want to call it. I think that's what that is. I honestly don't remember. And then this was, this is probably the goofiest shop, the hat shop. I tried to make different kinds of hats. Don't ask me why. It's just, I think I was running out of ideas for different types of shops. So I decided to come up with a hat shop. So I've got this really goofy fruit hat and then the couple of, I think this hat come from when we were working on the Easter plot. I was doing like some kind of a tent thing. And I said that would make a good skirt, and I used it for something else. And then I thought, I bet that'd make a good hat too. And so I changed it into a hat as well. So yeah, it's just some weird stuff. And of course, no mall is complete without, whoops, completely going the wrong way, without a food court. So we actually had some foodstuffs out here, got little tables. Again, at some point, like for Christmas, I would like decorate around the candles with like some greenery and stuff, but eventually I ended up having to remove some of that. So we've got the different eateries. And part of these coverings here with the grass and the box here, part of that is to cover some of the bits of the fab kit that's underneath here. So like this green smoke, that's not what I put there. That's coming from the haunted house fab kit that's underneath. So there's some parts poking up and I ended up covering it with some of this. So some of it's a necessity and some of it is just put in here to kind of make it look like it goes. It's like, I think this tree here, that's part of the fab kit. And I just threw in all the other stuff to say, okay, it's supposed to be there. And then, of course, the little food court thing is a combination of just general fruits in baskets, but I also added in some more complicated looking stuff. Some of this comes from our brainstorming of how to make different foods for different holidays, like you guys will probably recognize the turkey from my turkey dish and the pumpkin pie from the bakery and stuff like that. So that's the mall itself. Again, it's kind of morphed over the years because I think originally I had a water fountain here, and then when the holidays came I put in the big giant tree, and then later I just changed it up to an elevator setup. So if you go in, it looks like you can actually ride down, that kind of thing. So it's replicated. Again, I had fun trying to tinker with the idea that it's not actually a functional elevator, but it's, you know, based on the premise that it's that way. So you have to figure out, okay, when I come in, does it look like what this is, and that kind of thing. Some others have done it far better uh, methods, but this is the best I could come up with from my own brainstorming. But before we go down there, let's go into this is actually the haunted house fab kit that I gave access to, but obviously I can't make something like it's supposed to be intended to use, so I changed it. I think this was either for last Christmas or the Christmas before that. I really honestly don't remember, but this is the nutcracker that I come up with. Um, he's really creepy looking. I always thought the nutcrackers looked weird anyway, but if you don't know what that is, it's like you pull the arm or something, or there's a lever in the back and the mouth opens up and you put a nut in it and then you push it and it cracks it open, so it's a nutcracker. But so that's my version. It's again, he's really creepy looking the more I look at it. But anyway, a lot of pieces, probably hundreds easily. But that leads to the door here. And again, it's the haunted house, but I didn't use it as that. This is my candy room. It's holiday related, but not the haunted holiday. So it's all foodstuffs, but it's been turned into the furniture and the paintings and stuff. So we have a cupcake. Again, I really went hog wild with the fireworks. So that's like a firework acting as the cherry on top. We got ice cream cone, a lollipop, and a wrapped candy. And then, of course, I couldn't do without food-related furniture. So we've got like some ice cream sandwiches for the backs here, and like little, I don't know if they're supposed to be like those pies that they call it whoopie pies, or if it's supposed to be like my version of a macaroon or something, or just some kind of cream-filled cookie. I have no idea. But it looks cookie sweet related, so that's what I stuck with. Of course, the lollipops to be like a flower arrangement, but it's lollipops there. We have the little, I had a lot of gingerbread decor to use up. So I tried to find a way of coming up with my own version of some of the items, like this fireplace. Actually, this is like the door and then like the roof pieces and stuff, but I put it together as a fireplace. Hung all the stockings there, made a little setting here. A couple of rocking chair things, lots of pillows, weird striped carpet thingy, and then of course I was trying to make a partially opened gift. So you have the gift box with the lid taken off, and then these parts are supposed to be like the, oh, what do you call it, tissue paper kind of stuff. And then put together a really bare tree here. Again, I was trying to figure out ways to use those string light things that we had. Not in such a good way. I think I needed a couple more. I just didn't have enough to get all the way around. And again, trying to come up with a different way of making a tree, you know, rather than using one of the actual trees that move, I wanted one that, so it's, I think it's a firework that's just used multiple times, and I kind of tilted it because, you know me, I don't like anything too perfect in some regards. And I kind of envisioned that this topper would be a little heavy, so it would like make it lean. This I think was supposed to play on the M&M idea. How that actually works, I don't know. The couches are supposed to be Oreo cookies. And then of course another painting of, I guess it's a sprinkle donut. This is supposed to be a ice cream lamp. I think if there's actually light in there, it's probably like wigged out the brightness because that's just, you almost can't see the colors. And then I took one of the cookies and tried to turn it into a clock by using the um, Twizzler licorice pieces as the hands and stuff. And then over here we've got the kitchen. So the refrigerator is a candy bar. It's supposed to be slightly unwrapped. So it's like the aluminum foil opening, and then you got the don't ask. It's supposed to be a weird candy bar thing. And then of course this is supposed to be like gingerbread house style cabinets with the icing and then the gingerbread and chocolate pieces for the handles. I have some really strange ideas. Of course, the Oreo cookies again for the stools, and then we have a plate of the cookies for the little Santa Claus guy. And then I tried to make the glass of milk. It kind of works depending on the angle that you're looking at the glass. Like, it looks okay here, but at other angles it looks a little weird. But that was the idea. Notice these cookies don't look like these. I think it was because if I size these down, the white part disappears. So I made these out of a different item. And in fact, it's the same item that I ended up using in Melon's kitchen when I was using for the island and for the table. I think that's where this idea come from. Either or, I don't know which direction. I don't know if the cookie inspired the table or the table inspired the cookie, but it's one of those. And then, of course, no little house is complete without a pet. So I made a weird little doggy thing. So he's got his food dishes, the water dish with the water spilt out of it, and his name is Elf. And his little house is made out of the leftover gingerbread stuff. And then the dog itself is tires and frying pans for the tail and stuff. So yeah, it's just a weird little thing. I mean, like, this is supposed to be a paw print kind of deal. I don't know. Again, I have some really goofy ideas. Take it or leave it. That's all I can say. So that was the haunted house. Again, that's been changed up many times. It used to be an ice rink. I did put a spooky house thing in there with, like I said, I had the dance area, and then on the walls I had like dancing skeletons. And I think at one point, one of the first things I built there was a beach scene because I was playing with perspective and making the walls like a giant, it kind of was like a mural of sorts, but I tried to make it look like the beach extended into the distance. And that was probably one of the first things I put there. The only trouble I had was the lighting. You can't change it, so it's always got that weird misty look. The only reason the candy room is as bright as it is because I added in a bunch of lamps that you can't see to brighten it up, to lose that hazy look that it usually has because it's the haunted house building. Okay, and then the last place is the bunker house. Again, I set it up so it looks like the elevator goes up and down. So it's got the similar setup, the little emblem and everything. But this is the gallery. Initially, I'd meant to add more pieces. But again, because each piece is like several hundred pieces each, the decor count just wouldn't allot for that. So I left a note to say that there was more art elsewhere. So like Culantro is like where you'll find things like the horse sculpture and the peacock sculptures. I think most of those are sculptures, and there's a few paintings, but like there's a goat and a couple of landscape bits. But I think most of it was most of my sculptures ended up there. Turnips got a few. We saw those earlier. Lily has like the panda thing. Ginger, gosh, I'm not sure what's on there. I'm honestly, I think that's the Valentine plot, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. So yeah, these are among the first that I did. I think these were originally in the Stilts house. It was like among the first that I started actually purposefully. So I had like a night and day is the theme, and then later it was the birds. And then later it was going to be a holiday opposite. I started with the haunted house, and the other one was going to turn into a winter escape, but I never got to it. That's why the bird's still there. But that's where these come from. And you can see how simplified these are. It's pretty basic and yucky looking. Like that waterfall is like awful. Look at that. It's just. But I love the birds though. I had fun with those. Those were bottles and stuff that I used for them, especially that one. And I didn't really have a picture that I was looking at. I just knew I wanted a bird shape. I wanted something with wings and a beak and a head, and it just kind of stemmed from there. This one's the only one in here that isn't mine. This is, I believe it's Flowers. This was a gift exchange, I think, if I remember right. I gifted her one of my paintings, and this is the one I got in return. It's a night scene, and I think if I remember right, every single little star is a spoon. That's a lot of spoons, but it works beautifully though for the night sky thing. I think this originally is part of my Valentine plot. It's actually on the ground, so you have to look at it from a bird's eye to see it. But I added it here onto the wall. I needed something there, so I added it. But it's the swans. I had a lot of fun making it. It was kind of frustrating because I was having trouble with the shapes, getting them to work right, and then of course the features of the swan heads and everything. But yeah, I think it's part of a mural on the ground that's on the Valentine plot. I really loved how the feathers turned out, though. I think that's a taurine thing, and I just tweaked it a little bit. Here is a landscape. I tried to do kind of a wintry thing. Looking at it now, it looks really bleh, but it's one of those, you know, later on you look back at some of your stuff and you're thinking, what was I thinking on that? This was, I think it was actually part of my advent calendar stuff. The advent calendar, in case you don't know what that is, it's like a countdown to Christmas. And what I did is one year I did like 25 little things. Like on one I made a candy cane, and another one I did a wreath, and another one it was this scene, and then another one it was a doll. It's just 25 holiday related things, and I ended up moving the painting to here and framing it. But it's supposed to be a fireplace with the stockings and little painting above it. It's ridiculous looking now, but that's what I come up with. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of empty space. There's nothing there, but that's because once I put in what's here, there's really no space for anything else, which is frustrating, but that's the truth of it. There's just not enough space. Okay, this one is also a commission I did for someone, and I honestly don't remember who it was for. I want to say it's Esper, but I'm not sure. But they wanted, I think this is called Totoro, some kind of anime critter thing that there's a whole series about. So I looked up a bunch of pictures because obviously I don't know what a Totoro is. I'm not even sure what it is looking at it. I don't know if it's a bunny, a rat, a mouse. I have no idea. But I had to look up a bunch of pictures for reference, and then come up with this. Uh, so it's like clouds and a little mountain seen in the back, and then a little hill of flowers. Yeah, you can see I even tried to sign it with the carrot thing because again it was a commission, so I knew it was going to someone else. I think they were on NA side, but it's a cute little, I don't know what that is, the bunny thing or something. I think the toughest part was figuring out how to make the umbrella. Because again, these paintings, you predominantly want it to look flat. That's one of the reasons why we usually build up the frame to kind of thicken it up so it doesn't look so pokey outy. But there's just no getting around it on a lot of it, so you can see from different angles just how much it's sticking out. But from a front-on view, it looks like a little painting. But yeah, that was the toughest part, was the umbrella. Let's see what else we got here. Again, it's sad that it's mostly empty here. Um, do you remember the Nine Tails from the Pokemon plot? That's where I got the idea for the rabbit here, using the same mop heads for the fur. I just played around with the rabbit. Now, again, I could have it backwards. Maybe the rabbit inspired me for the Nine Tails, but they're related. Again, it's one inspired the other, whichever way it went. But that's my little rabbit. And then I just thought, okay, I want to do another rabbit, but have it white instead of this dirty brown. So ended up doing that. Um, the dragon, that was a fun one. Again, I love Asian stuff, and I had actually thought about using this on the Asian plot, but because of the thickness of this thing, I think it ended up not being practical for how I set up the little building there. That's why I ended up doing the panda painting instead, which I'm really happy that I did because I really like that one. But I like this one too. It's just, and this is essentially, other than the teeth, I think, it's all one piece that's being used over and over and over and over and over. Just edges of it tilted different, but it's the same piece of, I think it's Draken fencing to make all these weird little scaly bits and stuff. But the Golden Dragon, I think it's among the first official paintings I did. Once I got into the painting part, I actually did some, like I said, in beta and stuff, but it was more like I wanted to make like a little project where the person that had the house had like an easel and paint set, and so I had to make something on the painting. I didn't just want to use a poster. And yeah, this one was super frustratingly tough to put together. Again, this was well before we had color shifting, so it's not like I could just find an item that worked for the shapes of the arms and legs and then recolor it a pinky red. Now I ended up using the pink pillow, and so I was forced into twisting it and turning it. And so yeah, this is my version of a ballerina. I think I actually gifted this to, I want to say it was Bones, but I'm not sure. Somebody's theater, I think, has a copy of it. This was, again, that skirt that I said was inspired from the Easter plot, where we were doing some of like a tent for where they would like collect all their eggs and stuff, or baskets, I guess. I said that would make a good skirt, and I ended up using it for the ballerina here. So yeah, it was very tough, and if you zoom in, it looks awful, but at a distance, it doesn't look too bad, I guess. There's a lot of shapes, like the shape of her abdomen and stuff that I'm not quite happy with, but all in all, I think it turned out fairly decent. It's probably one of the few human type um, subjects that I used. I know there was a face drawing that I did somewhere else, and I know I did some like little China dolls and stuff, but this is probably the more closest to a human thing I did, and I'm not terribly upset about it. It is what it is. Um, this, I think, ended up in someone else's plot as well. I can't remember who. I want to say it was Marshall or something, but I'm not really sure. I think they used it in one of their offices or something as a backdrop. This one, I think it started mostly as I was trying to play around with different styles of the framework. And I'd seen someone, I think it was, that used like a perspective to it, so the inside of the wall is slanted instead of straight edge like most of my frames are. And then I thought, well, I need to make some kind of a scene just to kind of put it together, and ended up just playing around with different rocks and things to make this beach scene. And then I thought, well, I need to have some kind of background mountainy stuff, so it's got these like weird little cliffs. Then I thought, okay, I need a division between the sky and whatever's here, and I decided to make it like a seaside or ocean kind of thing. Added in the lighthouse, even gave it some actual light so it looks like it's shining off in there. Threw in some birds, tried to fake in some waves of water, which didn't quite go like I was wanting. But again, it was just me experimenting with different styles. I mean, I've got every sort of kind of rock here, I think. That's like the taurine, that's the bottom of one of those lamp posts, that's the bottom of the makeshift bulletin board, some obsidian stuff. I think some of these are like actually, I'm not sure what those are. But yeah, it was just an experiment, and it ended up, it doesn't look too bad, I don't think. Probably the favorite for most is this landscape here. This is actually based off of a picture I found on Google. I just used, I'm not even sure if it was Japanese. I just was looking for landscapes. And this is the one where I started experimenting with how the layers work. Most of the canvases that are the pure white, um, I have them almost like right on top of each other. So it's like one window thickness. This one I opted to spread it out a bit. The intention was I wanted the foreground to be darker, and as it went behind each layer, to lighten it up. So I think this was the first one that I really focused on that, and I think that's probably why it's one of my favorites. It's the most realistic, I guess, as close as I could get to it. So it's like a cliff with some waterfalls and a little river feature through the valley, and then some kind of uh, mountainous or cloudy bits in the background there. Um, I don't remember what painting it was I looked at, but it's as close as I could get to it. And then last but not least, and probably the most painful painting I worked on, was the slice of watermelon. Again, I think it was for the food challenge. I didn't want to just make edible food stuff. I wanted to do a painting of one. And this is another version of the layered, having them spaced out. So it's the same concept as this, but I just took it a little bit further and tried to use that as applying the shade to lighten or darken the objects, but again, it was a major pain in the butt because the lighter bits are behind the glass, so every time I wanted to move those, um, it was impossible. I'd have to move certain layers just to get that back down to the item. So yeah, it was very difficult, very frustrating. I really liked the end result, but it was not easy at all. It was really quite horrible to do. That's why I never did another one like it, because it was so hard. But it's super frustrating. I would not wish it on anyone. And yeah, there are imperfections. I mean, there's things I can see I would really want to change, but that's just how it goes. But it's supposed to look like a almost like a watercolor kind of thing, I guess. And I think I had actually made a piece of watermelon food for a picnic setting. I want to say it was at the theater plot on the outside, um, where the ticket booth and stuff was. And I thought, well, I'm going to try and do a painting of a watermelon wedge. I'm pretty sure I was looking at a reference, even though most of us know kind of what a watermelon looks like, but I needed kind of a guide to kind of know where the dark and shadows needed to lay. So yeah, that's probably, again, that's probably among my faves. Like this one, the panda, the landscape bits, those are among my top 5, 10 or so. But again, not all of my paintings are here. They're spread out because, again, some of these use literally hundreds and hundreds of pieces, so it was impractical to put them all in one area because you just run out of space. So I put as many as I could here, and then the rest are in different areas, depending on what theme they were. There's some on the what's it called? The Valentine plot. There's like the teddy bear and the swans are there, and I'm sure there's a couple of other things. But yeah. So to that, since learning that WildStar was going to end, I've been thinking a lot about how I wanted to wrap things up with the live stream and stuff, because my live streaming has been just basically focused on WildStar. Even my Twitter feed, that's mostly what that's been about. And up until the last couple of weeks that I had to miss, I've done my best to continue with the live streaming to bring as many homes as possible to you guys. I knew there was no way that I was going to get to everybody's house by the end of things, but I tried to get to as many as I could. That said, my health is iffy at best sometimes, and it became a concern, especially with me having to cancel the last couple of weeks due to health. It became a concern that maybe it just wouldn't be in the stars that I would be able to be there on that final day. And it started stressing me out about making sure that I got my final show in like I wanted to, and not feel pressured or guilty that maybe I end up getting sick on that week and am unable to stream as I had planned. To that end, I've decided that this is my final stream. I know this is going to disappoint a lot of folks because there's still a couple weeks to go, but I just don't want to risk. I'm feeling okay at the moment, but I might not be that way next week or the week after, and I don't want to mess that up by missing it. So So yeah, this will be the last one. So I just wanted to say that like many veteran players, I started playing WildStar in beta. And even then, I knew this was the game for me. It had a vibrant and engaging world, delightful characters, especially with the Orin and the Chua. Amazing music, and no surprise, the incredible housing system. And I was hooked, no turning back. It has been nearly 3.5 years since we've been streaming. I've covered 480 plus plots, if you can believe it. That's a huge number. It's probably closer to 500 by now, but 480 plus is still pretty high. That stretches over nearly 250 hours of video footage. Yes, I did take the time to count it out. So yeah, 250 hours, that is a lot. And this does not include the CBDC, the custom built decor challenges, or any of the live building that I did, which I did a lot of that for several months, at least, from what I can remember. And that's mind-boggling if you think about it. That's a lot of footage. So I don't envy anyone going from the beginning to the end. I think Poi was the only one that I know of that actually suffered through all of those hours of footage. Because once she found my channel, I think she went through all of them just to kind of catch up, which I appreciate, but wow. It's been a privilege and a great joy to share this passion with you all. Cool. My deepest gratitude to those that played a part in creating this incredible world. To those who played alongside me, and to those that supported my streaming. And to those that shared my love of the housing. I will absolutely miss all of this and all of you, but I will forever be grateful for the experience and the talented people I met by being a part of it. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, except for this part. And I hope that whatever games you get into after this, you find and carry this passion with you, whatever it may be. Sorry. But yeah, thank you all, and farewell. Take care.